to the Life is an Escape Room podcast, where learning about yourself is an adventure. Here's your hosts, the Eanes escapeletes, Chris and Jeff.
Hello, fellow escapeletes. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jeff.
And today we are going to talk about failure. We've experienced quite a few in the hundreds of escape rooms that we've done, almost 1,000. Although we do still have a pretty good escape rate. What is it, like 97%, Jeff?
Oh, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Very few that we haven't gotten out of.
Yeah. And that is because we have made failure our friend, and we were okay with asking for help, sometimes lots of help, right?
Oh, and I think people get competitive because they are afraid of failure. So they'll be. It's the idea of feeling failure in yourself because you can't figure it out. But
Yeah.
a failure is when you can't, get to your objective, not necessarily just know the answer.
Yeah. Well, you know what's fascinating too, and I remember, gosh, where were we? I mean, who knows? We've done, 22 countries, 24 states or whatever. Anyway, it was somewhere in the US though. And I remember we walked into the lobby and we heard a game master, like they typically brief folks before they go into a room. It was, I think maybe it was a new experience for a few of them, and some of them had done it before. But I remember hearing the game master talk about, if you need a clue, he was giving them whatever directions they needed. And one woman said, "Oh no, we're not going to ask for help. That would be cheating. That would be failure." And I was like, whoa. So it's fascinating just taking us back to that point on how just asking for help can seem like failure to others.
Right. Just your perception of it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too. It's one of the reasons why we found that we'll tag team because you'll get really focused on something and you just can't figure it out. And you just have to swallow your pride, so to speak, and have somebody come help and just sort of rebound from that, go and contribute in a different way, but don't internalize it as like a personal failure.
Absolutely. Well, or in my case, you can just not have pride at all. You could be like, okay, whatever. Right. So it's all how we perceive things. But now we have not gotten out of, I want to say 20, 25 rooms. I didn't check our stats before. And I even like to think about looking at those differently. So, right, there's ones that really looking at ourselves, looking at the situation. Some of them absolutely were not our fault, right? Others absolutely were.
Right.
And it's still kind of, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the differences between those and how they affect how we react?
Well, we've always had very little problem with not getting out. I mean, we'll get disappointed if we're close and if it's something we could have figured out. But for us, it's been a lot about the experience. And if we did well and didn't get out, or especially if it was just the two of us and it was just a lot of tasks, it was just overwhelming for two, then it's just fun, see how far you can get.
What can you do?
Yeah, what can you do? But it's also interesting because you brought it up, just the idea of whether we felt it was our fault or not our fault. You get into the idea of the after action, so to speak. It's what could we have done? How could we reflect on the failure? So is it really a failure if you got something out of it?
Yes.
So it's no, but what's your thought on the rooms that we've had trouble getting out of versus the ones that we just were overwhelmed by?
Yeah. Well, I like how you put it. It's about the experience. So I know we're constantly, when one or both of us starts maybe taking things a little too seriously in the rooms, we remind ourselves, what are we doing here? Right. So reminding ourselves about the big goal. And for us in escape rooms, it's about, relationship first. It's about having that fun experience. So I think with the ones that aren't our fault, meaning like you said, it's two people. I remember in particular, it was one in Richmond that we were working hard. We were working fast. We were going through everything. We had like 3 minutes left. We thought that we were opening up that final door, And then you get in there and it's a whole nother room with a lot of stuff that's just like overwhelming to look
Oh,
at.
right,
Right.
right,
So I think the learning there is, we can't, well, I mean, really, nothing is under our control.
right,
Um, so, and ultimately, right. So realizing that, it's about the experience. We need to have fun with that.
right,
And then also, like you said, with the ones that, it really just, it beat us and we made some mistakes or whatever. It's looking at, okay, what's the learning there? And then what was the experience? We
right.
had a fun, we met our goal of spending time together and having fun working through puzzles. And then what's the learning opportunity here for next time?
Well, and I don't think you can develop as a person, either personally or professionally, without some failures.
Absolutely.
It's in fact, it used to be sort of an interview question. It's like everybody talks about, oh, well, what's your greatest accomplishment, but also what is your biggest failure and how
Yeah.
did you handle it? So
Yes.
a lot of failure isn't so much the failure; it's what you did with the failure and how you
Yes.
reacted to it, how it developed you as a person.
Absolutely. Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that because that's actually like one of the courses within Ian's training course catalog is, well, actually, a couple of them are on growth mindset. And like I said, many companies now, even like astronauts, you cannot become an astronaut unless you have proven that you have a growth mindset, meaning that you've had a major failure, you've been able to come back from it, you used it as a learning opportunity. And in looking back, I think I've learned most from the big doozies that
Oh
I've
yeah.
had.
Oh, I think there's the times that you've had the hardest time is when you're more focused. I mean, if you're always winning, if it's always coming easy, then the first glitch, the first problem, the
Yeah.
first hiccup or road bump is going to throw you because you're not ready to compensate. But if you're in the idea of it's like, oh, well, something might happen that's wrong that I don't expect, and if you're just ready, it's like, hey, I'm excited. I'm going to,
Yeah.
oh, well, let me figure this out and figure it out in the spot, be in flow, realize that everything doesn't come easily. It's that
Yeah.
idea of just compensating and pushing through.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, and if anything, failure is an opportunity to practice your emotional intelligence.
Oh, right. Right. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
definitely handling how you react for sure.
Yes. Self-awareness, self-management. And it's funny because this, what comes up for me as our most recent failure, it was our 700th escape room. We were so excited about it. It was, I mean, we still are.
Yeah.
It was, and it has been, one of the top in the world escape rooms. We
Right.
specifically traveled there for that.
Right.
And it had a minimum number of four, so we involved a few other of our family members and
Yeah.
friends. And it was an amazing experience, and we didn't end up getting out of it,
Right.
which was disappointing. But I was so proud on how we handled it because we really focused on the experience and
The
how
team.
awesome it was, because it
Right.
was. I mean, how often are you in an environment where you really feel like you're hallucinating?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The shifting of the room was amazing, and it also builds up the idea because we were so excited about it. I felt in some ways that I was overwhelmed by the game itself.
Yes.
Just being there. So I didn't feel like I was delivering the best I could deliver, and
I don't think
it
any of us did.
well, yeah, yeah, it was well, and we had already been through quite a bit of
Uh-huh.
escape rooms already on that experience. But you know, sometimes you just have to recognize that you're off that day,
Hmm.
or uh, it's not clicking, and you kind of have to. Well, what can I do to either pick up the team and move it along, or when do you just say, hey, look, this is a different kind of experience. We aren't
Yeah.
here for the goal. We're
Yeah.
here to develop ourselves as individuals, develop our relationships, build a team, and have fun.
Yes. That was a hard balance, wasn't it? Like
Yeah.
you wanted to take your time and really look around at everything because
Right.
the attention to
Oh,
detail
yeah, it was
and the
amazing.
set-like quality was amazing. But then there was also that sense of, we have a lot to cover, we need to get through. But I
Right,
want to
right.
stop and see everything, and I want to
Oh,
experience
yeah.
everything. And it was kind of like,
Oh, well, and I think we had fun because
hmm
there's a portion in that escape room where you were in the front, and I felt I was sort of in the back, making sure that we were policing things up. You were in the front. Go figure. You just read, and
diving into the dark
oh my
crevices
gosh,
of rooms.
so Chris pushes through, and and suddenly she gets trapped in the dark on the other side of something and slides down a slide and is now separated from the team, and you're and it's kind of like we're almost, in fact, I even felt the urge to almost laugh. I was like,
There she goes again, getting
well,
trapped
it was
somewhere.
like, well, hey, that was cool. That was fun. It's like you want to sit there and just absorb it. And at that point we could see you, but you couldn't see us and you were in the
Uh-huh.
dark. So, it was just fun.
Yeah.
And we weren't being as productive per se. And it took us a while to figure it out and
Eh,
like what we were supposed to do.
yeah.
But it's the idea of, well, what happens in an instant when the team is broken up, or what
Yeah.
happens in the instant where the experience you're having is different than the experience they're having, and you're trying to figure out how to work together. It's
Yeah.
just kind of fun. It's kind of fun to be in the
Absolutely.
flow. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I liked what you had mentioned a little bit before because it totally relates to, real life, personal and work. It's, I've invested a lot of time in this. Um, it handling our emotions in when it looks like we're not going to accomplish that goal
Right.
or
Right.
meet that deadline, and then really thinking through, okay, what are some things that I can do? I've invested a lot, is it worth continuing on? So number one, right? So we tend to not want to let go of things that we've invested a lot of time in and just walk away from them. Sometimes we need to do that, so projects,
Right.
etc., right? The other thing is, how can I pivot? I know. What are some other things that you've learned, how that relates to life?
Oh, well, there's so many stories, and it seems like I've just, over our lifetime, you collect all of these little tidbits and
hmm
sort of anecdotes. But it's the old story about a person. I guess they're like in an investment company, and they make a bad mistake and they lose
hmm
$7 million. And the person goes to the boss and says, look, I made a big mistake. I got to quit. I'm going to quit. I'll put in my resignation. And the boss goes, wait, hold on. I just invested $7 million in your education. It's like, I'm not going to, no, that's a learning. I've invested a lot in you. You aren't going anywhere. So,
Yeah.
but you get into that idea of, it's like, look, for your mistakes to have worth, you have to stick it out,
Yeah.
because it's basically the cost of the mistake is the cost of learning.
Yes.
And that is not something that's bad in and of itself. There's very few mistakes that are life changing, but
Mm.
you get into these things where it's like the most experienced, most the best sort of worker people, so to speak, the best sort of performers are the people that have had a balance of success and failure. And
Absolutely.
the successes are great. It really teaches you a lot from the success. But I've always felt like making mistakes and the failure side is
Yeah.
really where you're getting your most focused learning. It's really just how you really connect with what you're doing.
Absolutely. Now, normally at this part in the episode, we would be asking our guest for their final piece of advice.
Oh, sure.
So I thought maybe what we could each give our
Sure.
final piece of advice. So I'd like to start out with embrace failure. Look at it as a learning opportunity. Sometimes, like you said, it's a very expensive learning opportunity,
Hmm.
but it is an investment in yourself, in how you show up. What is yours?
Uh, uh, don't be afraid to fail.
Mm,
And it's the idea of being so concerned about it. It's just, don't be afraid to fail. You got to get out. You got to put yourself out there and try your best. And it's the fear of failure that creates anxiety, and the fear of failure that keeps people from pushing through to their potential. So don't be afraid of failure.
I love that. Well, and on the not the flip side of that, but to add to that, it's if you aren't failing in your life, you're not stretching yourself far enough. So go fail today. We'll see you in the next episode.
Want to learn more about the Eanes escapeletes, buy the book, or read the blog? Visit lifeisanescaperoom.com.